Hi there, my name is Sam, and in this video I want to talk about natural authority versus suggestion of authority, or the law, or power authority maybe we could also call it. And I want to talk about this topic especially because of the current situation that we find ourselves in globally, where I, from my perspective, see a lot of people actually looking towards authority that's not natural authority, but it's actually this thing that I would call suggested authority, or actually domination and control authority. And I just want to give you the perspective that I have on how we as individuals can actually orient ourselves in this situation, with the question of like what is authority and what is natural authority and what is actually something that is not in our best interest, and how can we find in this situation even an orientation for how we want to act, and what's in our best interests, and how to base these decisions or these actions in a place of strength, and not in a place of fighting against something. So that's why I want to talk about this topic. And what I see today happening globally is that a lot of people are actually giving away a lot of their own natural authority, which everybody has as a potential within them. And so I want to talk to that as well. Yeah. And so what I mean by natural authority when I talk about this term is somebody who's actually so connected with themselves, with their feelings, with their thoughts, with their actions, with the structure they have internalized and they have as identities, for example, or as strategies of how to deal with certain situations. So a person that is connected to all of that, all these internal happenings, and has a level of meta awareness where one can actually look at the stuff that is happening within and understand these happenings within, so that there is a knowing about what is actually something where I'm reacting to a certain situation because I have learned, I was trained, I have been, for example, socialized into these behaviors, or I have internalized these behaviors from environments that I have found myself in prior, like in my childhood, for example, where I was also dependent on the situations and I had to adapt in a certain way in order to survive, basically. So all these internal structures are within us. We have them. Everybody has these internal structures and these identities that we have formed. And if you want to learn more about this, what I'm talking about here, you can actually watch my video, why relationship is so central to human experience. I've made a video where I explain more of this forming of identity and these internal structures and patterns that we have. So you might want to look at that. And then when I talk about natural authority, that's actually a phenomenon that can happen if somebody is in connection with all these structures within, but is actually relating to them from a place of independence, from a place of freedom, where this person is already free. And you could call this the self, for example. You could call this the core identity, or love, or whatever you want. But there's this potentiality within each person where there is this place within ourselves where we can relate to our experience and to the stuff that is happening within our mind and within our body from a place of knowing, from a place of beingness, and from a place of freedom, where there's already freedom to be yourself. So you don't have to fight anything actually from this place. And from this place, you're still acting in a mixture way from your patterns that you have built through life and through the structures and identities that you have taken on to survive or to, adapt to the environment. But actually from this place of freedom, when you relate to these identities, you can then express these identities in your actions, in your surroundings, when you interact with other beings, other people. But in a way, you're not these identities completely. There's a space where you allow yourself to be, or to show exactly what is coming through you authentically at this current moment, but you're not identified with it. And so you have this space from which you actually act in the world, which creates a sort of safety for other people to also disidentify from their patterns and their structures within, and also recognize within themselves this place of self, of love, of freedom, whatever it is, however they are experiencing this place within themselves. But you're actually inspiring other people to step away from their conditionings and their identities, and you're acting from a place of integrity and a place of authenticity. Because from this place of self, you have this knowing, this deeper knowing, and you can see in every situation that you find yourself in what is actually aligned with truth, the good, the beautiful, and you can act in this direction, even if you notice there's a reaction within you that is going in the opposite direction of more of a destructive, a harmful, and a self-limitating action or behavior. You can see this within yourself, and you can decide in each moment in which direction you want to go. And this is the inspiration that you can give to other people when they see you and witness you and observe you, how you act in every situation that you find yourself in. And this is actually what natural authority is, because in this acting in this way, you are giving the possibility for other people to also change within themselves and align themselves with this movement towards the good, the true and the beautiful, and step away from all these identities and structures that they have within themselves that are keeping them locked in self-destructing patterns or non-inclusive patterns, limiting patterns, and harmful patterns, basically. And so natural authority is, in a way, the responsibility you take to guide yourself in each and every situation, and always, if there's information coming from without, or also if there's information coming from within, that you check with yourself from this place of freedom and act anew every time, each time, from this place of freedom, in a way that you are going in a self-directed direction of the good, the true, and the beautiful. And this is an authority because you have the complete authority over yourself and your reality and your life, and you're taking this responsibility and this authority. And by doing this, you don't even need to use control or domination over other people, because you are inspiring other people to take their authority and their responsibility for their actions. And or you give the possibility for these people to do that. They can also move away from that because it's just too scary. That can also be a possibility. Or they can also attack you for this. Of course, that's also possible. But there's the possibility that you give to other people to actually move from this place in the world and act from this place in the world. So there's this inspiration point. And that's what I mean when I talk about natural authority. It's this alignment with your own inner truth, and with always choosing for yourself and from your core identity, what is good and true and right for you in this moment, and also right for the situation. And to kind of give a contrast to that, what I often see happening today in every situation, in every circumstances actually, is that a lot of people are basing their decisions, their actions, from information that is coming from without them. And by not being in contact with their feelings, by not being in contact with their deeper core identity, they have lost the possibility to actually connect to their reactions, their internal reactions, and align themselves with this natural authority. And then what is happening is there's words are being used as a sort of suggestion that are creating these reactions of feelings within the system of a person. So for example, words can be used like health or solidarity or anything the like. And then there's this positive association that we have as human beings with these words. And then these words can be used to insert a certain behavior or a certain action into your system, which is not really aligned with your deeper natural authority, but people are not connected to this enough in order to even have the ability to get back to themselves. Look, is this really what's true and good and right in this current situation? Is this really what I want? Is this really aligned with myself, with my deeper self? And because people lack this ability to connect with themselves, basically, in their feelings and their deeper knowing, they take this suggestion that is coming from outside and they just act on it unconsciously. And this is the place where people are giving away their power to an authority which is illusionary. There's no such thing as any authority outside of natural authority. There's no authority outside of yourself and your self-governing and your self-directed actions. This is complete bullshit. It's not there. But it's a place where people are actually giving away their authority and their power to this image, to this suggestion of authority, to this suggestion of power. And this is the place where we can actually come back into our power, when we are connecting back to ourselves, to our inner knowing and to our inner orientation with what is good and what is true and what is right. And maybe to add on to this topic of suggested authority, what I call bullshit authority, it's maybe easier to understand what I mean if you look at where the actual power of action lies. So, for example, if we take the situation that we find ourselves in right now, who is actually doing the stuff that is happening to us? Who is actually doing the sort of dominance and control that is happening right now? And if you look at it, it's actually people like you and me who have the ability or have the potential of this natural authority within them, who could be deciding for themselves what is true and right for them, as to get to know themselves and as they understand their internal structures and start to orient themselves towards natural authority and this responsibility that they have, instead of giving this responsibility and this power away to an external source of power or this sort of suggested authority. And if people like this, people like you and me, are actually starting to act from this natural authority, we can just say, I don't want to do this, this is bullshit. This is stupid. Why should I act this way? Why should I control other people? Why should I try to enforce something on other people? Why should I try to dominate other people with certain rules of behavior, certain things that people need to present in order to be let into an event or whatever it is? If the people like you and me who are actually doing this stuff, if we decide that we want to act from natural authority instead of from suggested authority that is coming from an external source, all this bullshit will just collapse. It will just fall in, it will just implode in itself, because there's no ground where it can rest itself on. It's just a suggestion. That's what I mean when I talk about it being bullshit, it being illusionary. It's us that actually are doing the action, or taking the suggestion and then behaving according to the suggestion, that is giving this suggestion its power. There's no power whatsoever in the suggestion in itself. So if you and I and everybody is actually being inspired to get back, to connect back to themselves and act from a place of natural authority, this is where all this bullshit, all this domination and control, all this suggested authority and all this fear-based understanding of how we interact with each other will just collapse and will no longer be necessary, because each and every one can take the full responsibility for their own actions, for their own reality and their own world, and will be connected to the self and to a place of freedom that is already present within each and every one of us. And we can direct our whole existence and our whole reality from this place of freedom and love and self. And that's what I want to give as a perspective on this situation that we find ourselves in right now, and also the possibilities that we have, because there lies so much power within just stepping away from this, and also stepping away internally from the structures and the behaviors that we have internalized, and actually re-finding or reconnecting to this place of self, this place of freedom, this place of power and authority within us, where we are the king or the queen of our own kingdom and our own queendom, internally and externally. Wish you all the best.